Fears of the virus trapping thousands of passengers on board a cruise ship off the coast of California. Vice President Pence saying today everyone on board will be tested. State of emergency, COVID-19 cases spiking in New York. This just in, an Uber driver, one of those infected. New cases confirmed from coast to coast. The apparent growing danger at nursing homes. The NBA now telling teams to prepare to play in empty arenas. Dr. Jen Ashton is standing by to answer your questions. Also tonight, a hotel in China being used as a quarantine center collapsing. New video showing rescuers pulling dozens of people trapped to safety. White House shakeup. President Trump ousting acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, naming key ally and conservative Congressman Mark Meadows to take over the role. Biden's blitz. Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden now turning their focus to the next big test. 6 states, including Michigan and Missouri. The former vice president racking up money and momentum. Sanders on the attack. Can he slow Biden down? The dangerous police chase ending in a fiery crash. 2 teenage girls on the run accused of burglary, crashing their car. Body camera video showing the moment officers rush towards the burning wreckage. And journeying to the top, a veteran and amputee taking us for an unforgettable climb, trying to conquer the world's tallest freestanding mountain when altitude sickness suddenly hits. What this brave Marine did.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. I'm Tom Yamas. And we begin tonight with the coronavirus expanding. The first deaths on the East Coast and the cruise ship stranded. The number of states affected growing. You can see the sweep of it since just last Friday to tonight. Now at least 401 cases across at least 29 states and the District of Columbia, at least 19 deaths. Tension on that Grand Princess cruise ship 50 miles off San Francisco, at least 21 on board testing positive for the virus. Vice President Pence meeting with cruise industry officials, announcing plans to bring that vessel into a non-commercial port, all on board to be tested, reminding Americans the risk of contracting the virus remains low. And of the 16 deaths reported in the state of Washington, officials tell us 14 are associated with that Life Care Center in King County that has been the focus of so much concern. And now word 2 more nursing homes are affected in that same state. ABC's chief national correspondent Matt Gutman in San Francisco starting us off.
Tonight, with the Grand Princess still circling off the California coast, concerns that all 3,500 people on board may have been exposed to coronavirus.
All passengers and crew will be tested for the coronavirus and quarantined as appropriate. Those that require additional medical attention will also receive it.
Details of the plan to quarantine on land still not final after 21 tested positive Friday and 4 days after the ship was linked to the deadly virus. And overnight, a scare. That announcement on the PA system.
We have a guest who requires medical assistance at the moment.
The ship maneuvering closer to shore. There, a woman and her partner medevaced, now on a tender ship. And after a tense night, the captain announcing the medevac was not related to COVID-19. Still, passengers on board anxious.
We're just hoping and praying that we test negative and that somehow this ship can get offloaded in time to get home. I don't really think it's terribly likely, but if I'm praying for one thing, that's what I'm praying for.
While touring the CDC on Friday, the president said he would leave it up to the health officials. But
I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault. And it wasn't the fault of the people on the ship either.
Anger mounting that the ship has both been kept circling and in the dark on some of the decisions, including the announcement that there were people infected on board. The captain clearly exasperated.
We were not given advance notice of this announcement by the U.S. federal government. It would have been our preference to be the first to make this news available to you.
In nearby San Francisco, tents set up at a hospital for more patients in the city and police handing out informational flyers on the virus. And Washington state remains the epicenter for the virus with over 100 confirmed cases and at least 16 deaths. And now the news that 2 more nursing homes have been afflicted.
We've had patients who, within an hour's time, show no symptoms to going to acute symptoms and being transferred to the hospital. And we've had patients die relatively quickly.
All right, Matt Gutman joins us now live from San Francisco, near where that cruise ship would have arrived. Matt, Vice President Pence saying all will be tested and some quarantine on land, but cruise officials are telling you they still don't know how this will be carried out?
That's right, Tom. In a just concluded press conference, cruise officials telling me they have not yet been informed by the federal government whether everybody on board will in fact be tested for the virus, as the vice president said. They added they haven't even been informed where the ship will dock or when. They say they don't even have a timeline yet by government officials of when these key decisions will be made. Tom?
So many questions still tonight about that boat. All right, Matt, thank you. Now to New York, where the governor has declared a state of emergency with now at least 89 coronavirus cases, a 50% jump overnight. The governor with strong words for the CDC. And tonight we're learning one of those infected in New York is an Uber driver. This is some professional sports teams are assessing how they move forward when it comes to fan participation. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, a state of emergency declared in New York as the coronavirus spreads across the country. The number of confirmed cases soaring to at least 89 statewide. 11 in New York City, including an Uber driver, a man in his 30s, hospitalized in Queens. Plus, 23 new cases confirmed in a suburb outside New York City, about half of them linked to an attorney who frequently traveled through Grand Central Terminal. The governor blasting the federal government, claiming the state isn't getting enough money to fight the virus and there aren't enough tests.
The CDC was caught flat-footed. I believe they're slow in their response, and I believe they're slowing down the state.
This as Florida reports the first 2 deaths on the East Coast, a man and a woman, both victims in their 70s with recent overseas travel. One of them from the district Congressman Matt Gaetz represents, who earlier this week wore a gas mask on the House floor. Tonight, Gaetz releasing a statement expressing sadness about the death, urging people to take the necessary precautions to minimize your exposure. People seen taking extra precaution. New video shows a Costco worker in Tampa wiping down shopping cart handles as customers enter the store. Nationwide, at least 29 states have COVID-19 infections, with new cases in California, Oregon, and the first case of community spread in Nebraska. The NBA tonight telling teams to plan for the possibility of playing games without fans. Superstar LeBron James responding.
If I show up to an arena and ain't no fans in there, I ain't playing.
And now the NHL closing all locker rooms to the media over fears of the virus.
All right, Stephanie Ramos joins us now from the hospital where that New York lawyer is being treated. And Stephanie, I want to go back to that Uber driver. The company has just released a statement about their driver who tested positive.
That's exactly right, Tom. Uber says they have a dedicated team working closely with public health officials. They also say they've removed the driver's access to the app and are also working with authorities. Tom.
Stephanie Ramos reporting from Manhattan's West Side. Stephanie, thank you. And so many of us have questions about this virus and what each of us can be doing to stop the spread. Dr. Jen Ashton joins us now. And Dr. Jen, from the reporting tonight, we've learned that 2 more nursing homes have been affected in Washington state. You know, we know the elderly are the most vulnerable to this virus. Do we know why it's hitting nursing homes?
Well, you have to understand in a skilled nursing home facility, it's really a revolving door of sorts. You have patients going in and out from hospitals to hospitals, in and out of the community. You have visitors, including grandchildren, coming in on a regular basis, and you have staff who oftentimes will leave that nursing home job and not only go to their homes, but possibly to other jobs as well. So it's a really ripe population to be at risk for this.
So what can we do to help prevent elderly people from contracting the virus?
Well, I think a couple of things, Tom. And the first thing is we have to start seeing what we do as a buffer for the vulnerable population. So things like school closings, restricting large gatherings, and even working from home if possible, especially the school closings. Remember, a lot of those grandchildren go to visit their grandparents, so they can be a vector of spread. And then I think also when you look at this nursing home outbreak situation, it's about isolating the ill. It's about contact tracing to try to figure out who else may be at risk. And again, testing everyone. The testing is key.
Dr. Jen Ashton for us tonight. Jen, thank you for that. Now to the growing virus crisis overseas. A hotel in southeastern China collapsing, used as a quarantine location for people who had contact with coronavirus patients. At least 70 people trapped. Here's ABC's Jennifer Eccleston.
Tonight, rescue teams in China scrambling to free 70 people trapped inside a hotel used as a coronavirus quarantine center after the structure suddenly collapsed. The 5-story building in Guangzhou flattened. Hundreds of emergency workers searching the wreckage for the missing. Officials say dozens already pulled to safety. Officials now investigating the cause. Also tonight, the escalating contagion and more American tourists trapped by the virus. Officials spraying a hotel in Bethlehem where 14 Americans are under quarantine. More U.S. tourists in lockdown on a cruise ship on the Nile River in Egypt. Authorities there saying 45 people tested positive for COVID-19. And more measures to contain community spread in Italy. Now with over 4,600 cases, Europe's deadliest hotspot. The Vatican moving the Pope's Sunday Angelus prayer and his Wednesday audience inside and off limits to the public. Only available to the faithful by live stream. Vatican City now reporting its first case of coronavirus, and in Naples, an American sailor testing positive, the first case of a U.S. service member in Europe. Tom?
Jennifer, thank you. We turn to politics now in the major headline out of the White House. Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney fired, replaced by retiring Congressman Mark Meadows, considered one of President Trump's closest allies. The 4th Chief of Staff in 3 years, a record. ABC's Kira Phillips reporting from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Tonight, a new shakeup in the Trump administration in the middle of the coronavirus crisis. In a tweet, the president firing acting chief of staff Mick Mulvaney and announcing Congressman Mark Meadows as his replacement, writing, "I have long known and worked with Mark, and the relationship is a very good one." The timing of the announcement, a surprise. And sources tell ABC News even members of the president's communications team were in the dark. But Meadows is not a surprise pick. The retiring congressman from North Carolina has emerged as one of the president's most loyal defenders on Capitol Hill, particularly during the impeachment battle.
Certainly, the president should be vindicated in this trial.
He'll be the president's 4th chief of staff in 38 months, a record. Sources say the relationship between Mulvaney and the president has been deteriorating. And though he served for 13 months as acting chief of staff, he was reportedly never the president's pick for the job. He'll now leave the Office of Management and Budget, where he was also director, and serve as special envoy to Northern Ireland.
Bottom line, the president needs someone he can trust right now, not only helping him through this coronavirus crisis, but the 2020 election year. White House sources telling me tonight Meadows is the kind of aide who will try to understand what the president wants and look for ways to achieve it. Tom?
Kira Phillips with that new reporting tonight. All right, Kira, thank you. Next to the 2020 race for president, that once diverse and sprawling Democratic field now down to essentially 2 candidates, Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden, the former vice president hoping to carry momentum into a new round of pivotal contests next week. And the senator in attack mode. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
In St. Louis today, in his trademark aviator sunglasses, Joe Biden acting every bit the frontrunner, strengthened by a boost in fundraising and support. Today, holding one of his largest campaign rallies this cycle.
What a difference a week makes.
He's picked up key endorsements, including 8 from his former rivals.
Folks, you know, Senator Sanders likes to say he'll need a record turnout to defeat Donald Trump. He's right. And we're the campaign that's going to do that record turnout.
I have been with Joe, but I also really liked Pete. And so I was kind of back and forth. But when Pete dropped out, there was no question.
But the next round of contests could reshape the primary again. 11 states still up for grabs this month. Senator Bernie Sanders drawing huge crowds of his own on the hunt to close the delegate gap, canceling an event in Mississippi and zeroing in on a state he won in 2016, delegate-rich Michigan, expanding his attacks on his rival.
I voted against the Wall Street bailout. Joe Biden voted for the Wall Street bailout. Joe Biden was on the floor of the United States Senate on more than one occasion, talking about the need to cut Social Security. I just don't think that Joe Biden can generate enthusiasm